Good morning, Service Lines community. How y'all doing today?
Whew,
Brother Doug.
man, in the middle of that good morning, I decided I'm going to call out sick because that's way too much energy. Come on now, relax, relax. We got 4 days after today. Pace yourself.
I
Five,
mean,
5 days. You're a 6 day a week guy right now, right?
I just had a first week off since like I I don't even last year probably.
You're,
So
you're,
I'm
you're building your roofing foundation right now, man. It's
yes
all
sir,
going to
yes
come
sir.
around the corner soon, right?
Yeah, I spent a week in Indianapolis. Great time.
Hmm.
Turn it into a vacation. Do a little fun with the family. We did the
Yeah.
zoo this year. That was cool. Never been to or haven't been to the Indianapolis Zoo since I was a kid. So that was cool. Did the art museum. Art museum's really cool. Did the children's museum again. Daughter's 8, so all those
Yeah.
are in her wheelhouse. And I survived the 50-mile bike ride. I'm alive. That was the goal.
I did a bike ride for 50 miles as well. No,
In your
I didn't.
dreams?
Yes, yes. I dreamt that last night. Very tired this morning when I woke up.
Yeah.
That's a
I
busy
was.
weekend then. Nice job, man.
Yeah, I was not ready for it, but I survived. I linked up with a couple other guys that were slow like me and just had a good time on the bikes. So,
Nice, nice.
yeah.
Your legs get really swollen and all your veins pop out like Lance Armstrong. Does that happen to you as well?
No, but my quads were screaming by the last 2 miles.
Right.
Man, that last 2 miles was like I'm calling out the mileage. I'm calling, cuz they don't have the bike computers I did, and so I'm calling out mileage and I can tell they're fading and I'm just shouting out encouragement like, come on, guys. 2 miles, two
Yeah,
miles. Let's go.
yeah,
All right, 1 mile. Let's go. Um, I find that that is
Listen,
very helpful.
I don't ride bike competitively, but I can relate because this Saturday, we had our company,
You did.
summer party, right? And I had to move this dorm size fridge from this area where we were picnicking to my car, and my quads are killing me now and my back. So together, dude, we'll get through this together. Promise you.
Oh man! And then we rounded out the weekend by getting to hear John Maxwell preach at my
That's
friend's church.
amazing,
That
man.
was
That's
just
amazing.
yeah, it was super neat. Super neat. He's an amazing. So we're talking about communication today, right?
Mm,
And he's just an amazing communicator.
yep.
Um, love his books. I picked up two while I was there. High Road Leadership, which I can't wait to dig into, and then another one, his first book that he wrote for Christians in 25 years, he said.
Mm,
So that's pretty cool. Um,
that's awesome.
but they're both on, kind of taking that high road of leadership, and so that's exciting. So good morning, Garrison. Good morning, Adam. Good morning, Andrew. Glad to have you along with us, guys. We are talking about the communication, right? Those
Yeah.
non-verbal things. And I want to kick it off because so as I was scrolling in the pre-roll, a friend of mine posted this quote from Winston Churchill. I no longer listen to what people say. I just watch what they do.
Mhm.
Behavior never lies.
Mm.
And that's a lot of what we're talking about today, guys. The those unspoken things that as leaders, as managers, as technicians, as CSRs, even as customers, right? These unspoken communication, it does speak
Mm.
volumes. So we'll dig
All
into
right.
that. Good morning, Gasper. And
Zach's bringing the message today.
yes,
Preaching. That's good
yes,
stuff,
sir.
Zach.
Yes, sir. Pray us up and let's get into it.
Hold on. The Miele coffee maker is resetting. 1 second.
All right.
It's very
All right.
loud. Very loud. Okay. All right. Lord God, we thank you for rising up today We ask you to help us see the blessings that are in and around our lives, the things that have happened in the past that we missed, that were gifts from you. God, help us remember that you will always be with us. And so blessings will be with us moving forward, blessings that we see in our peaks and valleys when things are going well, and especially when things aren't going as well. Lord God, help us be great communicators with our actions, with our facial expressions, with our processes at work and with our customers and employees. Help us show the world that you've called us because we love you so much to love the world and to love our neighbor. So God, show us how we each individually, gifted differently by you, the Holy Spirit, show us the ways that we can uniquely reveal the light of Christ to the people around us. God, we thank you for all that we have. In Jesus' name, amen.
And oh, that is so true. Don't forget your children are watching what you do.
Ooh, I wouldn't have been sarcastic if you told me that 20 years ago, Jasper, but it's too late now. My kids,
Yeah. They model the behavior that
they do.
we do. So
Yeah,
it's really no different than having employees or teammates.
it's
Um,
true. It's true.
and
Our strengths and weaknesses, we bring them to the table, whether we like it or not, and they're going to take on a bit of each.
yeah, so we are talking about the unspoken communication, and it was a perfect week for it. I'm just finishing up Unreasonable Hospitality. If you know me, you know I love to listen to books. We were just looking at my stats in the pre-roll. Since I got the app, 30 days of listening time, which is just, it seems like a crazy amount until you break it out over a couple of years. I got some work to do. Need to do that instead of scrolling reels. But
Yeah.
Unreasonable Hospitality, he tells a story towards the end of the book, and he's the general manager of 11 Madison in New York, which is upscale 4-star restaurant that grew it from like a 2-star to just a Michelin star rated fancy restaurant, right? And he's leading this team, and most of this team came up with him as the general manager. He brought them on, and they stuck with him throughout this. And so as they have a chance to start a second restaurant, he's trying to wear the hat of the general manager while
Mm.
starting this new restaurant. And what he's told these people for years, I mean, literally like over a decade, is that I trust you. I trust you. We're teammates. But by not designating the
Mm.
new general manager, he was communicating without communicating that he didn't trust his team.
Mm.
And it was beginning to have effects on morale and things getting done at the restaurant. And so, how often do we do that with our own teams? How often do we tell them, oh, we trust you and, you can make these decisions?
Mm.
We do stuff that counteracts that, right? We take actions. We have a face when they make a decision, right? Um, quite good at that.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd be
Um,
nervous if I worked with you, Zach.
yeah, my face does not lie. It does not lie. But how often do we do that same thing in communication?
Mm.
And so where are some of the other points in our own lives, our own businesses, our own teams where we've communicated stuff to the team unwittingly, for better or for worse, whether it was a good thing or it was actually a consequence, right?
Yeah. And you probably won't know you're doing it until someone calls it out. So you have to stay humble and be prepared to hear people's feedback,
Hmm.
which usually comes at the wrong time. People will give you feedback when you're giving them feedback. And so rather than dealing with their stuff, they'll throw something back at you. Anyone got an amen on that? And so, but even though it's misplaced and mistimed, it's a real thing. so you may not be able to take care of it there. But you, for leaders, a lot of times we're not going to get proper feedback unless you set up an environment where you're asking them, so how am I doing? How am I supporting you? If not, you got to pick up those cues wherever you can get them. Does that make sense, Zach?
It does. I mean, he only knew that he was making that mistake, and he finally assigned a general manager
Mm-hmm.
because someone came up to him and said, "Listen, you're you're killing the team.
Yeah.
You're communicating this. You're communicating to us that you don't trust us by not picking someone. You're saying that you are the only person who can handle this job,
Yeah.
right?" And so if you don't have systems in place for people to actually provide genuine feedback, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we need to provide that to our team members that we're leading, but it needs to come the other way. Um, I, with the pastor at church, right? I communicate to him all the time. Hey, we really missed the mark on this. Like, why? Here's what you said, and then you went and did this. How can we improve that? Like, is there something that I can do to help you as a leader? Is this something that you need to work at? And so we have that level of trust that we've built up. Um, I think that's where it starts. You
Yeah.
have to build a level of trust with your teams, right? So, do you have any of that in place at Action, or
Yeah,
is it
well,
just
we're getting there. Regular one-to-ones, checking in and having a space where everyone can communicate what's on their mind.
hmm,
That's one thing. There's a whole bunch of stuff. I love this, not actual communication this way, like simple little stuff. You want to automate as much or process out as much communication so that you don't have to do it. All of a sudden, you're going to feel like um, the angry parent always going, no, no, oh, I told you, no, no, no. So, for instance, our GPS system that for our fleet put those alerts notifications on the employees that drive it.
hmm,
So now the system is saying, hey, you're speeding 3 times today. Hey, you just you're hard braking again. And then I get to follow up if there's a trend and talk with them and say, so what's going on? What do you think's causing you to all of a sudden have a rise there? One of the things my service manager is great at is just being really direct. So for instance, if you call out sick and you don't have time to take, I mean, I'm a really nice guy. So I'm gonna have this painful conversation. When I say painful, it's more painful for me than it is the employee because I don't want to crap on their parade even more that they were out sick or they had to take a day off they're gonna get a smaller check. But my service manager Brian, he's awesome. He's just like, well, you don't have time to take. So uh, which Saturday do you want to work? The one upcoming or the following one to make up for the day? And
hmm,
so what's going to happen now is that's going to go into our process. If you call out sick or you take time off that you don't have to take paid, you have to pick a date. So now that'll be part of the form that says, I'm taking today off and I can work this date. That's an automation type thing. And, obviously, if somebody comes to us and says, I can't do it because, whatever. But it's just better than being heavy handed all the time and being
hmm.
the police officer. So that's an area that a couple of our leaders and myself have been trying to think about. How do we channel Brian Mahowski, the service manager, and try to put things in place that the employees just know by policy what's going to happen when things don't go well. And then we got to work on things that do go well, right?
Hmm.
So sending sending an employee a gift randomly without telling them it's coming, and then excuse me, and then they ask you why, and you just say it's because of who you are. So I think that's another nonverbal communication to show them that we appreciate them. So some of those are some things popping off the top of my head that we do or that we're working on right now.
Yeah, so the love languages, he does talk about that in the book as
Yep.
well. He makes reference to the five love languages. So it is good to learn your teams and what their love languages are, right? Some might be gifts, some of them might be acts
Hmm.
of service. And learning the way that they receive love is a great thing, right?
Right.
He brings up the correction as well. So he said, while there might not be five languages of correction, he goes, let me kind of bring up three. And he talks about like you can have a conversation with someone and just, hey, this is what's going on, and we need to correct it, and they're going to receive it, and they're going to change, right? You can have that same conversation with someone else, and they're going to internalize it, and they're going to feel it, and they're going to,
Hmm.
it's going to be a painful thing. And then he talks about some people you just really kind of got to yell at them. Their love language is being yelled at. They're just used to that loud communication. And when he brings that up, it's not abusive. You're not taking it personally, right? It's just a louder tone.
So,
Um,
so can we agree then that you have to be 100%, almost 100% in control of
hmm,
your words, your tone, your expressions,
yeah.
and your timing, right? Otherwise, I feel like that's going to be a tool that's going to burn your butt more than it's going to help you. If
Well,
someone
most.
needs a stern speaking to, you probably need to get some acting lessons in because you're going to, in my opinion, and
Hmm.
agree with me different, because I think here's where we, even though we're both mindset people, we might diverge a little bit here. For me, being impeccable with my word is not going to happen if in the moment I'm pretty frustrated.
Hmm.
And my wife knows when I'm frustrated before I know I'm frustrated. So can you imagine sitting with an employee and I'm really not in a good place with them? Man, they probably see right through it, and maybe that's a good thing, Zach. But I don't know. I think we should always be in 100% control with a purpose behind everything that we say and do. And if I'm extremely disappointed, I might need to just give it 30 minutes or something, and then channel my disappointment in really effective words, maybe. No.
Yeah, I no, I think we may have diverged from there in the past. But I try and channel my inner Doug when I get pissed off now. Uh,
But have you watched The Bear yet? On was it that is it on Hulu? The Bear, or is it Apple? Have you watched The Bear? The
uh-uh.
Chicago chef, who took over his brother's business that made, hoagies, and now he's
Uh,
bringing it in to make it a five-star restaurant. He was a professional chef. It, I have anxiety watching this. You got to watch it. It's called The Bear, right? And you just the anxiety behind the raw emotions of
hmm.
making a beautiful dinner and taking care of all the customers that night. It's a psychological shit show, no doubt about it. And but I can see how that can draw excellence, but I also can see how that can cause burnout for everybody.
Well, and I think the nonverbal part of what you're talking about. So your wife knowing you're frustrated, and my wife knows the same thing. She can
Mhm.
tell when I'm frustrated, and sometimes it's the tone of my voice, sometimes
Yep.
it's my face, sometimes it's the way that I carry myself. Um, Now, how does that relate to our employees? Guess what? They see the same thing. If you don't think that your team members and your
Yeah.
customers
Start to get
even
to know you. Yeah.
see that same thing, um, it's there. Even a customer, if you walk into a customer house and you're carrying this tension, you're carrying this
Hmm.
frustration, um, whether it was they got an attitude with your CSR, they got an attitude with you on the phone, whatever the case is, when you walk in that house, if you're carrying that frustration with you, there's a lot of non-verbal
Hmm.
communication happening there. And so I I like that idea. Go take some acting lessons and learn. Some some people it may be going to a psychologist and just
Mm,
working through what is the deeper issues within me that are causing this frustration to,
yeah.
just spill out in these other ways. But I I th- I think if we can remember being impeccable with our word, and then that carries through in our actions and the way that we carry ourselves, it it does help. I mean, really, since you and I have been accountability partners, right? I mean, you share the four agreements with me all the time when we talk on the phone, and it's like, hey,
Mm,
how are you handling this situation? And so having someone around you that can go, and again, this goes back to that level of trust that we talked about earlier in the
sure.
episode. Like, you have to have someone that you trust that can go, listen, when you get pissed off, your face like does this contorty thing and
Yeah,
your eye
yeah,
begins to
right.
twitch, and like
Yeah, 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 yeah.
your shoulders slump or they tense up or whatever. You have to have someone that you trust that can give you this feedback on these nonverbal elements,
Mm.
because the reality is most of us don't know that we're doing it. Some of us might, but most of us don't know when those shoulders like just tense up and the face like contorts. My daughter calls it my stupid look.
Oh
She
man.
she
Yeah,
knows when I'm looking at something and I just get this look on my face like, what the are you doing? And my face just does it naturally, right? So,
so would you be a good contestant on The Price is Right? Would you get all excited? No, you wouldn't. No. You know how like The Price is Right, they're going to pick the most energetic, most responsive emotionally, and have a lot of visual cues. Uh, I'm not that too much in any direction. People, my
mm.
family always wonders if I'm happy or not. I'm like, really? This is insulting that you're asking me this, but can you see now I'm disappointed? And they're like, no, I can't tell that either. I'm like, what the heck? But back to just kind of brainstorming myself right now as we're talking this through. What if I were to channel my inner Zach, okay, and allow the expression to come out in the moment with an employee or a person, right?
Mm.
That I'm disappointed, that I'm stuck, I'm frustrated, I am without words. Just let that expression out, and then say, "Let's talk at 4 p.m." or "Let's talk tomorrow morning." And then that person does get to witness the authentic Zach or Doug.
Mm.
And then I can come back with a very calculated, appropriate, professional, loving, kind, mentor like, if that's what's required, approach.
Mm.
But let's not hide. Maybe I should try that. Not hide the nonverbal, which I think for me on the phone with my technicians, a nonverbal could be, where I mute my phone and scream fuck, So I mean, I might just, go, well, this is, I might just have a whatever's comes to mind that's appropriate, and then say, let's talk later, my friend. All right.
Yeah.
And then get into it from an appropriate way.
Well, and I mean there can be good in that, right? There can be good in letting them see the frustration, letting them see that
They
anger
should
that's
see it. They should
inside,
see it. Yeah.
and go, I'm not in a place where we can discuss this right now, but let's
Oh,
talk at such and such a time,
that's
you
Clint
know?
Eastwood right there. That's channeling Clint Eastwood. I like that. You're
I
pulling
it
the 357 out. You're like, I'm not in the right frame of mind to discuss that right now. So let's talk later. I love that. That's a good one, Zach.
I
Man.
and the reality is they can understand that there's frustration, and then when you come back and you actually have the communication with them, you have that verbal
Yeah.
communication. um if you're impeccable with your word, right, and you're coming
Mhm.
across and you're not taking it personally, you're here's the situation, here's the facts of the situation, here's what happened. Now, how can we work together? Right? It's always a
Right.
collaborative effort. How can
Right.
we work together to resolve this? Like,
Yeah.
what, because you got to hear their side of it as well. And are we paying attention to their cues? Are we paying attention when our employees
Mm,
are walking in and they're upset? Are we paying attention when we walk into a customer's home and they're frustrated and
right.
they're just, you know, at their end? Those moments of nonverbal communication can be big indicators. Because
Yeah.
if you come into, for that example, if you come into a customer home and you're all cheery and smiley and that customer is not in that space, they're not
Hmm.
going to receive you the way you intended. They're just going
Right.
to get more frustrated.
Right.
But if we were to pay attention to those nonverbal cues from the customer, "Hmm,
And we
man, what's going
adjust.
on?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
doesn't seem like you're having a great day. What's going on?"
Hmm. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then we can open up the lines of communication by paying
Mm.
attention to the
Yep.
nonverbal ones, right?
Yep. Yep.
Um,
I'm a little nervous.
my peeps know when I am direct and not talking and ask to talk to them at the end of the day. That Rob is not happy with your efforts or lack thereof. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
there
mean,
you go. He's got a
it,
style, Rob style. I like it.
but they also know that he's thinking through the solution rather than
Yep.
letting emotion get into it. And that's really the point of what we're talking about here. Like,
Yeah.
let them
Problem
see
solving.
let them see that unverbal communication where it's like, yeah, I'm frustrated or I'm pissed or I'm whatever, but we're going to have a discussion when we can really have a discussion on this and it's not an emotional thing.
You
So,
know what, Zach? This kind of it might be a little off topic, but our leadership team and the owner of action, just to build up some ideas, some issues, long-term issues that we think we can work on in our business. We started going through the Elevate book with Tommy Mello, and
mm,
so doing the first pillar, I think there's 4 pillars or so,
yeah.
something like that, right? So from the first pillar, one of my leadership team members said, I like where he said that employees should fear losing their job. And then another employee said, well, I didn't read it exactly that way, but I don't think that an employee should fear losing their job,
Mm,
especially if they're doing their job well. And it was a great conversation to have them go back and forth and kind of pitch from their perspective how things are going. And I think they're both kind of right. I think that
mm,
if you're not doing your job properly and you know it, put because of your processes that are in place and regular conversations or official one-to-one meetings, if you know that you're not hitting the mark, then yeah, you probably should be a little worried that you may
mm.
not make the cut and still be on the team. But if you're doing really well, then the only fear I think we should have is that unless the company goes out of business or the industry dies, that you've made a place for yourself. But I've not been able to get the two of them to agree. One says the word fear should never be in there, and he kind of shared with her like, well, if they're not doing a great job, how should they take it? And that's where we kind of talked about having really strong KPIs. Um, but so in your corporations that you start eventually, and you've got your 500 employees, which way are you going to go on this? Do you want everyone to always worry that at any turn, the business, the company, the employees, we all could lose our job, or is it that you do your best, and in the event that for some weird reason out of your control, your business folds, it's not because fear that you failed.
I think there needs to be some grace in it,
Hmm.
right? It's not something and you can go too far to either extreme, really. I mean, it's
Yeah.
very easy as a leader to go to either extreme. Um, in Unreasonable Hospitality, he actually talks about a situation where one of his captains who'd been with him for a long time, so captains are like lead servers, and been with him a long time, and he was drinking on the job.
Mm-hmm.
And he let down his entire team. The entire team came to the general manager and let him know what was going on. And so he pulls him in the next day and says, like, we can do this two ways. And fire you right now and walk out,
Mm-hmm.
right? And thanks for your hard work, but we don't have a place for you. Or you can take the day off and you can go and apologize to everyone that you let down.
Mm.
tomorrow
Yeah.
and never let it happen again. Because if it
Mm.
happens again, I will fire you. And so I think a healthy level of fear is okay, but I, I think there does need to be some grace in there as well.
Yeah.
Like there is a
Yeah.
certain level of you can't tolerate things that affect customers and affect
Mhm.
other members of the team. And so there does need to be a fear. Like if I cross this line, I may not have a job. I might experience some grace in this, and I better correct my actions.
Yeah.
And then if I do it a second time, that's the last time. I do think there needs to be a
Yeah.
little bit of a
Not
balance and a little bit of grace.
that's a great example. And if you just want to add to that story, if it's not already there, it is the best captain, the best lead team member that the restaurant has, and they're held to the same standard as the person that's the newest
Hmm.
person on a team. Go take a day off, get yourself in order, decide what you want to do, make things right with the people that you've wronged, and you've got a fresh start here. I think that should apply from the
Hmm.
top down. So that's a really great story, Zach. Appreciate that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that one spoke to me. I didn't always react in that way,
Mm,
and so I kind of wish, if I had to do it again, I think there would have been a little bit of
mm,
grace in that. Either sometimes I was too gracious and let stuff
yeah.
carry on too long, or
Yeah.
I was too hard-handed, and didn't demonstrate grace. And so finding that better um, balance, I think,
If the
is so
team
important.
sees you let that lead slide because of who they are and what they've done in the past, then that is sending a nonverbal cue that if you earn enough credit, you can screw up here and you won't go anywhere. So
Yeah,
now that level of excellence has been watered down a little bit. It
correct.
has a kink in its armor. So we have to be consistent all the time with those things. That's a really great example. Good
It,
reminder.
and I think that's probably the last nonverbal communication is consistency, right?
Hmm.
Through our
Yeah.
actions, through our words. Consistency isn't actually spoken, but it
Hmm.
is part of the spoken. It is part
Yeah.
of the actions. It is part of the written, right? And so if we're consistent in what we're doing, um, that will communicate something to our customers, to our team,
Yeah.
um, to the other leaders within the organization. So there's definitely something to be said for being
Well,
consistent. You know.
man, so consistency points back to a very necessary ingredient, which is you need to have your process in place
Hmm.
so well that anyone who comes on board knows what's expected of them. And it's going to be an ongoing thing that you're going to tweak here and there. But man, oh
Hmm.
man, it's all your fault if they didn't know what they were supposed to do there. So build that first for sure, and practice other things while you're doing it. And humbly apologize when they point out a hole in your processes where I
Hmm.
didn't know I was supposed to do that. The word common sense should never come out of your mouth, or you should have
Hmm.
known better. Or it's like, okay, you just made me. You don't have to say this out loud, but you just made me better because I'm going to fix that process, and
Hmm.
or I'm going to fill that hole, and it won't happen again. So
Yeah, that's the start of it with a company, right? Those
yep,
processes, those
yep.
procedures, that handbook really has to be in place so people know what the expectations are.
Mm,
Expectations are the biggest non-verbal communication, and they really do have to become
yeah.
verbal or written. Um, the goal is to be completely written out with
Yep.
our expectations, because if people don't know what they're aiming for,
Right.
how can you correct them? How can you hold them accountable, if you haven't put that in place? So, I mean, how many times do we have these expectations that really have never been verbalized, have never been
Hmm.
written down, and then they become verbalized, and it's like I didn't know, I had
Right.
no idea, right? That's on us as leaders to correct that. So
Yeah.
get your house in order.
Hmm.
Um, then you can really hold people accountable. So hopefully this conversation has helped some of you guys. It's cathartic for us, at least. We can
Yeah,
get better at what we're doing with our nonverbal communication. So,
that's right. My,
all right,
my
guys.
my family starts work again in school next week, so I have a few more days to practice with the wife and show her I can communicate non-verbally better. Working.
Good luck with that, Doug. Good luck with that.
Yeah. All right, guys. Have a
We'll
great
see.
week.
We'll see you next time on the morning grind, guys. Bye.
Thanks.